It is true that the availability of double toggle switches rated CO or ALR, copper or aluminum rated, is limited. Major electrical device manufacturers do not currently produce them. Here are some alternatives. Firstly, install two single toggle CO or ALR switches side by side to control the exhaust fan and light separately. Secondly, use a CO or ALR rotary switch, which allows for multiple switch positions to control different functions. Thirdly, install a transformer between the aluminum wiring and the switch, converting the aluminum wiring to copper before connecting it to the switch. CO or ALR wire nuts are designed specifically for pigtailing aluminum wire to copper wire. They contain a special antioxidant paste that prevents corrosion and overheating. However, it is important to note that pigtailing aluminum and copper wires together is generally not recommended due to the potential for galvanic corrosion and loose connections over time. If your home has extensive aluminum wiring, consider consulting with a qualified electrician to assess the condition of the wiring and determine if upgrades or replacements are necessary. It is crucial to ensure that all electrical connections are made properly and in accordance with electrical codes to minimize safety risks. Use only approved electrical devices and materials to ensure compatibility and reliability. When dealing with aluminum wiring, understanding the potential issues and adopting appropriate safety measures is crucial. Aluminum wiring was used in many homes built in the 1960s and 1970s due to the rising cost of copper. However, it was later discovered that aluminum wiring could pose certain risks if not properly installed and maintained. One of the primary concerns with aluminum wiring is its tendency to oxidize when exposed to air. This oxidation can create a high resistance connection, leading to overheating and potentially causing a fire. Additionally, aluminum is more susceptible to expansion and contraction with temperature changes compared to copper. This can cause connections to loosen over time, further increasing the risk of overheating. Due to these issues, it is essential to take precautions when dealing with aluminum wiring. The alternatives previously discussed, such as using two single-pole switches, a rotary switch, or a transformer, can help mitigate these risks. Each of these solutions offers a way to safely connect devices without directly connecting copper and aluminum wires. When using two single-pole switches, ensure that each switch is rated CO or ALR. This rating indicates that the switch is designed to be compatible with both copper and aluminum wiring. Install the switches side by side in the electrical box, making sure to follow all applicable electrical codes and safety guidelines. A rotary switch can also be a viable alternative. These switches often have multiple positions, allowing you to control different functions or devices with a single switch. Look for a rotary switch that is rated CO or ALR to ensure compatibility with aluminum wiring. A transformer provides another option for safely connecting devices to aluminum wiring. The transformer converts the aluminum wiring to copper before it reaches the switch, eliminating the need for a direct connection between the two metals. When installing a transformer, be sure to follow the manufacturer's instructions and all applicable electrical codes. Pigtailing with CO or ALR wire nuts is a common method for connecting copper and aluminum wires. These wire nuts are specifically designed for this purpose and contain an antioxidant paste that helps prevent corrosion. However, it is important to note that pigtailing is not always the best solution and should be done with caution. To properly pigtail copper and aluminum wires, follow these steps. Firstly, turn off the power to the circuit at the breaker box. Secondly, strip the insulation from the ends of both the copper and aluminum wires, exposing enough wire to make a secure connection. Thirdly, apply a small amount of antioxidant paste to the aluminum wire. This paste will help prevent corrosion and ensure a good connection. Fourthly, twist the copper and aluminum wires together tightly, using pliers if necessary. Fifthly, screw the CO or ALR wire nut onto the twisted wires, making sure it is securely fastened. Sixthly, wrap electrical tape around the wire nut and the surrounding wires to provide additional insulation and protection. While pigtailing with CO or ALR wire nuts can be an effective solution, it is important to inspect the connections regularly to ensure they remain tight and free from corrosion. If you notice any signs of overheating or loose connections, take immediate action to correct the problem. In addition to these alternatives, it is also important to consider the overall condition of your home's aluminum wiring. If the wiring is old or damaged, it may be necessary to upgrade or replace it. Upgrading to copper wiring is the most reliable solution, but it can be expensive. Another option is to install aluminum-rated outlets and switches throughout your home. These devices are specifically designed to be compatible with aluminum wiring and can help reduce the risk of overheating and corrosion. When working with aluminum wiring, it is always best to consult with a qualified electrician. A qualified electrician can assess the condition of your wiring, recommend the best solutions for your situation, and ensure that all electrical work is done safely and in accordance with electrical codes. Remember, electrical work can be dangerous, and it is always best to leave it to the professionals. Here are some additional tips for dealing with aluminum wiring. Firstly, never use standard wire nuts to connect copper and aluminum wires. Standard wire nuts are not designed for this purpose and can lead to corrosion and overheating. Secondly, always use CO or ALR rated devices when working with aluminum wiring. These devices are specifically designed to be compatible with aluminum and copper wires. Thirdly, inspect your electrical connections regularly to ensure they remain tight and free from corrosion. Fourthly, if you notice any signs of overheating or loose connections, take immediate action to correct the problem. Fifthly, consider upgrading or replacing your aluminum wiring if it is old or damaged. Sixthly, consult with a qualified electrician before doing any electrical work in your home. Seventhly, follow all applicable electrical codes and safety guidelines when working with electricity. Eighthly, turn off the power to the circuit at the breaker box before doing any electrical work. Ninthly, use insulated tools when working with electricity. Tenthly, wear safety glasses and gloves to protect yourself from electrical shock and other hazards. Dealing with aluminum wiring can be challenging, but by following these tips and taking the necessary precautions, you can ensure the safety of your home and family. Remember to always consult with a qualified electrician if you have any questions or concerns. Aluminum wiring requires careful attention to detail and adherence to safety standards. Aluminum is a softer metal than copper and is more prone to oxidation. This oxidation creates a layer of aluminum oxide, which is a poor conductor of electricity. This can lead to increased resistance in the connections, causing them to heat up. Over time, this heat can damage the insulation on the wires and even start a fire. To prevent these problems, it is essential to use the correct materials and techniques when working with aluminum wiring. CO or ALR rated devices are specifically designed to address the challenges of aluminum wiring. These devices have terminals that are made of materials that are compatible with both copper and aluminum. They also have larger contact areas to help reduce resistance. When installing CO or ALR rated devices, it is important to follow the manufacturer's instructions carefully. Make sure to tighten the screws and the terminals to the correct torque specification. This will ensure a secure connection that will not loosen over time. In addition to using CO or ALR rated devices, it is also important to use an antioxidant compound in the aluminum wires. This compound helps to prevent oxidation and maintain a good electrical connection. Apply a small amount of antioxidant compound to the wires before connecting them to the terminals. Another important consideration when working with aluminum wiring is the size of the wires. Aluminum wires must be larger than copper wires to carry the same amount of current. This is because aluminum is a less efficient conductor of electricity than copper. Make sure to use the correct size wire for the circuit you are working on. You can find the correct wire size in the National Electrical Code, Table 310.15b16. If you are not sure what size wire to use, consult with a qualified electrician. When making connections with aluminum wiring, it is important to use the correct tools. Use a wire stripper that is designed for aluminum wire. This will help to prevent damage to the wires. Also, use a torque screwdriver to tighten the screws on the terminals. This will ensure that the screws are tightened to the correct specification. If you are not comfortable working with aluminum wiring, it is best to hire a qualified electrician. A qualified electrician has the knowledge and experience to safely and correctly install and maintain aluminum wiring. They can also identify any potential problems and recommend the best solutions. Here are some common problems associated with aluminum wiring. Firstly, loose connections can occur over time due to the expansion and contraction of the aluminum. Secondly, corrosion can form on the aluminum wires, especially in damp or humid environments. Thirdly, overheating can occur due to increased resistance in the connections. Fourthly, damaged insulation can expose the bare wires and create a shock hazard. If you notice any of these problems, it is important to take action immediately. Contact a qualified electrician to inspect the wiring and make any necessary repairs. Ignoring these problems can lead to serious consequences, including fire and electrical shock. In addition to the specific solutions mentioned earlier, there are some general guidelines to follow when dealing with aluminum wiring. Firstly, always turn off the power to the circuit before working on the wiring. Secondly, inspect the wiring regularly for signs of damage or corrosion. Thirdly, use only approved materials and devices that are specifically designed for aluminum wiring. Fourthly, follow all applicable electrical codes and regulations. Fifthly, if you are not comfortable working with electricity, hire a qualified electrician. Aluminum wiring can be safe and reliable if it is properly installed and maintained. By following these guidelines and taking the necessary precautions, you can minimize the risks associated with aluminum wiring and ensure the safety of your home. The information provided is intended for informational purposes only and should not be considered a substitute for professional electrical advice. Always consult with a qualified electrician before making any changes to your home's electrical system.